So we're about to start now. Good morning, everyone. You are welcome to this edition of Football Business Training Section. We are about to start now, where we will be talking about football business, be an agent, the role of an agent, and how to be a top agent. One of our instructor from Australia will soon join us. But before we start, let's introduce ourselves one after the other. I know few of us, but if I didn't mention your name, just unmute yourself and introduce yourself. We have Olufemi Fajano here. Olufemi Fajano, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I am Oluwafemi Fajano. The name of my company is First Season Agency, First Season Sport Agency. Yeah, I'm new to the business though, and I'll be so glad if I can get to learn more from what we are about to go through today. I know the main reason why every one of us is here, or the main reason why I am here, let me speak for myself, is to be successful in this business. While growing up, I used to be a player. I played a little while, played some couple of football in a in secondary school, played some principal cup. So I've been so interested in this business, and I believe that there's so many to learn and so much to earn from it. So I just decided that while doing some other businesses, I still just believe that if football business is still not part of my business, I haven't still really gone. I haven't really achieved my aim, my dream, and my goals. So I just decided, okay, fine, let me just do it. I set up my business last year. I got my I got my license too last year from NFF in Nigeria, in Abuja. But still, it's just like I still need to mingle with people that have been part of the business for a while, so I can easily get to know. So it was just this day. I don't know how Mr. Michael got my email. I don't know. Maybe he must have gone to NFF website to get all the intermediaries or something. But he mailed me some months back. I ignored it. Because I thought maybe it was one of these spam messages. He did it again, but for the third time, I just decided, okay, fine, let me just contact this man and know what's going on. I contacted it, but so far so good that we've chatted, that we've talked. I haven't really gotten any cause for alarm or any regret for knowing, but I know after today, I will be so glad that I didn't really pay. My money did not even go into water or did not even being washed away. I know I will gain a lot of things from this lesson. So that's just me. I stay in Lagos. Like I said, I stay somewhere around Yanopaja. So nice knowing everybody. That's me. Like I said, one more time, my name is Oluwafemi Fajano, the CEO of Four Seasons Sports Agency. Thank you very much.
You are welcome, sir. You are welcome. Charles Obioki.
Hello, I can hear you.
Charles Obioki.
Hello, sir.
Morning,
are you
everybody.
talking to me? Okay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Obieke Charles. By the grace of God, I've been around, and yeah, you called me.
Yeah, introduce yourself, Charles.
I said my name is Obieke Charles. Good morning, everybody. First of all, my name is Obieke Charles.
You're good. Yeah, you are welcome. Thank you.
I'm from Imo State, but I reside in Lagos at the moment, and I've been to football team for some time, but I am kind of person that aspire to know more, learn more, and do more. So the last time I was in was when we had Zoom meeting about Nigeria, the crisis or the problems facing Nigerian footballers and club side. So from what I heard and from what I got in from that meeting, it is not a regret. It wasn't a regret rather on that, and I know it's going to be a regret also in this meeting. I want to commend you, Oga Mike, for putting up this opportunity for some of us to learn more and know more about football and the business. Thank you.
You're welcome. Abdulaziz Ibrahim. Abdulaziz Ibrahim. Ibrahim is still around. Unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi everyone. My name is Ibrahim. For a second, I was thinking you mentioned Abdulaziz Ibrahim. That's why I was wondering. Once again, Ibrahim. Unlike other people that have been talking, I haven't been around football business a while. I just got registered with the NFF a couple of weeks ago. So I'm happy to be on this platform to learn the necessary basic steps to beginning how to start football business. And I hope someday I'll get to meet everyone in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Abdulaziz Ibrahim, are you set? Okay, Emmanuel Henry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm Emmanuel Henry. So I just got into football business, but though I've been playing football for some years, so I thought of going to the business intermediary to know more about it and to be successful in the business. Along the line, I got to meet Mr. Eddie. So he has actually been putting me through. Has actually carried me along. I really want to use this medium to appreciate him. So, and I want to learn more about the business. I want to know more. And as I decide to do it, I pray God. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Bangoshe Abayomi.
Mr. Mike, I'm set anytime.
Hello.
Hello, Bangoshe Abayomi.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Fine, thank you. Introduce yourself, please. 30 seconds.
Hello.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Bangbu Shabayomi.
Okay.
Can you hear me? CEO Catalan Sports. Basically, I'm into intermediary business because I was an aspiring footballer back in the days, and unfortunately, it couldn't work out for me. So I felt there needed to be a void needed to be filled because I feel professionally football is not being run the proper way in Nigeria. So I feel people who are more passionate about the game to get more involved in the game to take it to the next level. So that's why I decided to go into football business, and I decided to be an intermediary, to therefore an intermediary license, which I got October this year. So that's basically why I'm going into sports, to basically see how I can add my own contribution, my own quota to the game, to the development of the game.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Easy. 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 Are you hearing me? Hello, Easy.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
Precious Udochukwu.
Yes. Present.
Introduce yourself, sir.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh. Hi.
Introduce
My name
yourself.
is Joshua Idohen.
Okay.
A minute. Can you hear
Clearly.
me? Okay. My name is FX, FIFA intermediary. It's nice meeting everybody here.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Before we proceed, is Abdulaziz Ibrahim online?
All right. I'm done with the introduction.
Abdulaziz Ibrahim. Benga Global, are you there? Benga
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Clearly.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we are hearing ourselves. Anyways, my name is Benga Global. I play intermediary in Nigeria. I'm very happy to be. Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, hello. Are you hearing me?
Yes, hello.
Okay, you are welcome, everyone. We are going to start in the next 1 minute. Our instructor from Australia, Peter PALEOLOGOS, is very much around there. And our another instructor from Nigeria, Eddie Ogwemudia, is very much around too. Before we proceed, I would like to give us some preamble of what we are going to hear today. Number one, Mr. Peter, good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Michael, can you hear me clearly?
Clearly, I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Michael. It's good evening here from Australia, Melbourne. Nice to meet everyone and looking forward to this presentation, which Michael asked me to give. I have presented once before, the topic being the pathway to become a top agent intermediary. Just briefly, I've been intermediary and a football lawyer and a player agent for 15 years. I've had a lot of experience in Asia, Europe, Australia. I'm also head or co-head of the Australian Football Agents Association, which just like the Nigerian Agents Association is affiliated to the European Football Agents Association. And today, Michael suggested for me to go through 3, 4, 5 crucial areas, which I'll get through. I've got a PowerPoint presentation, which can be distributed to everyone here today. Sorry, it was a bit rushed. I thought it was just going to be a panel chat, but Michael tells me that I have to give a presentation, so that's fine. But as I said, thank you for the opportunity. And Michael, I don't know if you want to ask me anything before I begin.
How do you give me just 5 minutes?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, as I was saying, who is an intermediary? This is the most question everyone is asking around. Who is an intermediary? What's the work of an intermediary? How can you be an intermediary? And so on. But let me give you a short definition according to FIFA. An intermediary is a natural or a legal person who, for a fee or free of charge, represent players, coach, or team, a clubs, in negotiation with a view of concluding a transfer agreement. An intermediary is a natural person or a lawyer. It can be a banker, anyone. But before you can do that, you need to register with your country FA before you can be an intermediary. So being an intermediary, you can work with players, footballers. You can work with clubs, football clubs. You can work with coaches. Being an intermediary, you can work in negotiation, contract for players, for coach, even for advertisements, etc. As an intermediary, there are commissions. As an intermediary, there are commissions for you where you can get. There are certain commission. According to FIFA, it was 3%. In some countries like England, it's 5%. But in Nigeria, it's between 3% to 10% in Nigeria. I think there is this new regulation coming from FIFA. I'm yet to lay my hand on it. Our affiliated member, the IFA, European Football Agents Association, they have a draft of FIFA new regulation about intermediaries. In the next few days, I will go through it. I have it already, but I've not have time to go through it. The new regulation for an intermediary is out already. The draft is not confirmed yet, but the draft by FIFA. So I think there is the FIFA have to work on the commission, the agent commission. They have worked on that. Actually, they put a cap on it last year, but as agent, we kick against it. But I think they have regulated. That is that. Another thing I want to talk about is who can be an agent. What I want to say is, whatever you do before being an agent, we either have a positive influence in your agency stuff. Some are lawyer before becoming an agent. Some are bankers. Some are accountants. As lawyer, players need your help. As a banker, you have what to do in players' career. As an engineer, you have role to play in a player or a coach. That's why I say whatever you do or whatever you are doing before being an agent, we add to your agency career. There are some agents in Europe now. Some are bankers, some are lawyers, even some are salesmen, like these guys. They work with Adidas before. They work with Adidas for some years, and they quit working with Adidas. They form an agency in Germany. They are the one managing Paul Mertesacker, Serge Gnabry, and Karl Havertz now. They are marketers of Adidas before. Whatever you do before being an agent, we have influence in your agency. So if someone said you are a furniture or you are a marketer before that, you can't be an agent, no, it's a lie. Being a marketer, we add value. You know how to market your players. Being a banker, we add value. You know how to advise your player to manage his finances. Being a lawyer, we add value. You know how to advise your player, your coach, your client rightly. There is this guy, George Neboa. He's a lawyer before he became a football agent. He's currently representing the player like Leon Goretzka, Kevin Trapp, that goalkeeper. We all know Goretzka, the player of Bayern Munich. He's a lawyer before. Even our instructor, two of our instructors today, Peter is a lawyer. Eddie Ogbemudia is a banker before being an agent. Peter is a lawyer before being an agent. Peter is using his legal area to back up the agency. He's advising his client the right way. Likewise, Eddie is a former banker. He worked with EcoBank before. Now he's an agent, one of the very best agents in Nigeria. Now he's an agent. He's advising his clients, all his clients, how to maintain their finances. So no matter what you do before, being an agent, we help or we contribute to what you are doing before, and what you are doing before, we contribute to your agency stuff. Yeah, thank you once again. Peter, I will advise you to hold a jotter and pen, you write something down. There will be time for question and answer. So whatever Peter presents now, within the next 45 minutes, there will be 15 to 20 minutes of question and answers, so Peter can answer your question. And his presentation too, I will email it to you after the show. Yeah, thank you. Peter, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Did you want to share my presentation on the screen, or is that possible?
I'm showing it
You had it
right now.
before. Okay. All right. No worries. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's seminar. As I said, it's an honour to Michael's asked me again to appear and give my impressions of the pathway of becoming a top agent to people here today. As I was mentioned before, I gave a little bit of introduction about myself. I've been an agent 15 years. I've seen a lot, I've learned a lot, I've come across a lot of deals, and I'd like to share that with you today. Michael mentioned to me to focus a little bit on certain aspects, because I know there's another session tomorrow and I don't want to overlap. And basically what I'm focusing on is the football agent, just generally representing footballers worldwide, the role, the obligations, negotiation skills and tactics. Some of the negotiation skills and tactics that I've used over the years that I think are effective because they're simple and they can get a result for the client. The player contract in particular, the bonuses and the loans, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And something that Michael wanted me to talk about a lot was endorsements, or we call it in Australia sponsorships for clients. And that includes the simple boot sponsorship or boot deal to more image rights and other endorsement deals. Just briefly as an introduction of the role of the football agent is basically about sourcing, negotiating and closing the deal on behalf of your player. The key with the player agent, I don't want to get into the legal side, I want to get into the business side here. Even though I'm a lawyer, it's about learning the business tips because the actual regulations will change down the track as well regarding player agents. It's the importance about player agent is relationships. It's who you know, who you trust, and it's important to build a network. And that network is obviously your players, being your clients, clubs, other agents who can assist, especially under the current arrangements where you need other agents in different countries, because to register in different countries is very difficult and timely and expensive. So very important to have good relationship with other agents. Sports brands, there's a lot of different companies in the football space that you should try to develop a relationship with. And a lot of those sports brands, and when I go to endorsement, I'll elaborate on this, have representatives in different countries. So you don't have to go to the head office. They do have national representatives. And finally, other networks is media journalists, professional services, and financial and legal advisors. For those who aren't lawyers or who aren't accountants or aren't bankers, like my co-instructor, it's good to have those people in available in your network or as part of your agency to advise players. I just want to go briefly into the role of an intermediary and the way I see it. In my experience of 15 years as a player agent and as an intermediary, it's about negotiating and managing the professional football contract for the player, the international transfer of players or domestic transfers. It's about providing media, marketing and promotional endorsement services to clients. It's managing transfers on behalf of players. It's negotiating contract renewals. It's handling marketing and media inquiries, including endorsements and sponsorship opportunities. It's about supporting players with personal issues, because everyone's got family or personal issues, and also cultural issues. I mean, I know in Africa, there are certain ways of handling family or handling business or handling relationships and being respectful. And there's maybe a hierarchy as well. So handling that as an agent for a player and dealing with all the dynamics around that. And also handling any grievances that the player may have with the club. For instance, the coach may isolate the player, not want him to play and try to get rid of him, and how you deal with that. But also the role of the intermediary or the agent is attention to detail. Very important. You must complete all the necessary paperwork properly, whether it's what needs to be lodged with FIFA, the National Federation, your contracts, your meetings with players. Very important to keep file notes, all your emails, everything filed in case something arises in the future. And also, we are talent identifiers. We scout potential clients, we get referred potential clients. So that's generally what the intermediary in Australia and worldwide would normally do. And I use the term agents or intermediary. It's the same thing, but I use both terms as in this presentation. Now, client identification. This is a building block. I'm building into what I'm going to discuss, but client identification is very important. Having been in the business for 15 years, I've seen a lot of players, young, talented players, who have not achieved the professional goal, who have not had the opportunity for the professional pathway. The way I assess players in scouting or referral are the four factors of client talent ID. Tactical, which is the one that you can probably work more down the track if they don't have it initially. Technical, fundamental, first touch, all those attributes. Athleticism, it's becoming a very fast game, a physical game. So that's very important. And then mindset, and that's twofold. Players' character and psychology. Players' character is very important. In the football business, players get approached all the time, get influenced all the time. And that's important. You need to have players who have a character of loyalty, but also honesty. They tell you what's happening. The second part of the mindset is the psychology of the player. Working hard, wanting to achieve, never giving up, all those attributes. So mindset's twofold. The character aspects are for you as an agent and relationship, and the psychology is, do they have the attributes, the mindset to make it as a pro? Because as we know, it's a mental game in a lot of ways, and you've heard this all before, but it's very important attribute. Okay. The other aspect of the business is basically how to pick your market. Now, each market is different. Africa, I haven't had much dealings in Africa other than South Africa and Egypt, but I know it's a very complex market. Europe, if you're dealing with the 5 top elite leagues, there's a certain way of doing business. In Asia, there's also a certain way of doing business. So you need to understand the markets. And how do you do that? Is by traveling, by making acquaintances, by watching games, and by understanding the cultural nuances of different countries. I mean, in Asia, where I deal a lot, it's a very hierarchical, a lot about respect to the coach, respect to the football director, respect to the other players. Deals are done over maybe after a meal or a drink. And at the end, when the deal's done, a photo's taken in with the president. So you need to understand a little bit the cultural nuances, but also the way those markets work. And that may be, do they or in the Czech Republic in Europe. So you need to also assess those, that market and all the differences in different markets. So it's a very difficult job. It's about getting information, getting experience, and understanding all the different markets you want to work with. Some have. And if you've got players that are in demand in certain markets, that makes it easier. But if you've got players that are just trying to push for trials, that can be difficult because there is a lot of competition for professional footballers. And so we have to, need to know which segment or which market we aim our players for. Okay. In terms of marketing your players, the tools are very simple. Obviously, we get the CV, the videos, articles are very good. So, and I'll talk a little bit about media later, but articles about your player are also important. And then the references. So if you've got coaches who are well known and support your player, and also football directors or coaches who have dealt with you, because when you approach new markets, people will ask about you. So it's good to have references for yourself as the agent, especially if you're new and you're learning and you're pushing through and you don't have 5 years of experience behind you and a track record. That's important, not just for the player, but also for the agent. Are they reliable? Their reputation. Sometimes we forget, we just focus on the player, but we have to look at ourselves as well. How are we selling ourselves? How are we regarded in the marketplace? If we're new, how do we deal with that market? And I follow that up with, emailing and following up with sports directors. I've mentioned using articles. In terms of sending players, and these are new players, not established, of course, you only send players that have got a very good chance to make it. Because if you send a player that's gives a bad impression, you still have the relationship with the club, that affects you. The player moves on, but you lose that respect and you lose the respect within the club and your reputation. Now, being worldwide, everyone's using Instat, Y-Scout, Transfermarkt, Huddle. There's so many platforms now that are available to scout players. So clubs now can get a lot more information on players, especially with now all these worldwide platforms. Now, I want to show you this. This is a FIFA Pro Global Research. You may have seen it. It's about the average wage of players. And sometimes we think the top 5 leagues, only really about 2% of players on here earn above 720,000 American dollars net a year. The majority of players earn about 74% of worldwide earn less than 4,000 US per month, US dollars. So it shows here and this is FIFA Pro, this is the Player Union International Body Research, which shows that player salaries outside the global elite are very low, even in a lot of European countries and Asian and South America. So we need to understand that only a few players will make the elite level, and it takes a long time to get players into the elite level, especially if you're a new agent and you don't have a track record to be able to deal in that elite space with the high salaries. Most of us initially, when we start, we deal with the lower salaries unless you have a player that's in demand. And you can see the salaries are very low. I mean, 21% of players, professional players worldwide, earn less than 300 USD net per month. That's not a lot of money, and that's professional players. So we need to understand the market dynamics that we're dealing with. Now, this is where negotiation, this is the crucial, this is what I call the pie, the 4 pieces. The player agent, the player, the destination club, the source club. The source club being the current club the player is, and the destination being the club they're transferring or going to. These are the things, these are the items that you need to be aware in terms of negotiating a player's club contract. The 4 areas and their segments, and I'll just go through them briefly. So in terms of the player agent, you're either acting on behalf of a club or a player. You can have a tripartite where you do both. FIFA is going to change that a little bit about who you can act before with conflicts of interest. But right now, we're just focused on that you need a mandate or a representative agreement with the club and the player. Important to have the term. So when you're dealing with the player, it's within the term of your contract or your mandate. Exclusivity, very important with exclusivity. If it's a mandate or it's a rep agreement, you need to ensure that that's relayed to the clubs, because a lot of times, a lot of players are represented by different agents. So you can also ask for the player to write an email to back up your mandate or your rep agreement to say, all other mandates, if they've given any or rep agreements, the only exclusive one is with this agent. The player agent's got is obviously obligations, and there's a commission. If we look at the player contract, what we're looking at on behalf of the player to negotiate is the term of the contract, the 2, 3, 4 year deal, any fixed bonuses, and I'll go into the type of bonuses a bit later. But basically, we want a fixed bonus, we want a net bonus, always net, as in not gross, net. So we have fixed amounts that go into the contract. Fringe benefits, which is another term of taxation on accommodation, cars that are provided, travel. Some countries tax those on the player. So you need to clarify that with the club to make sure the club pays those fringe benefit taxes. Termination clauses for the player to get out of a club for just cause or any other reasons. Penalties, very important, where if clubs, especially in a lot of Asian countries, they impose very strict terms about conduct and other things. You have to be careful to make sure those clauses are reasonable and negotiate those. Obligations. What are the player's obligations? You need to make that clear, and that should be in the contract. So as an agent, when you do sign the contract with the club, you make sure you go through all the obligations that the player has and make that clear. The player just wants to sign. They want to sign and get their fee, and they want to play. But sometimes they don't want to read the obligations that are in the contract because it's a long contract, it's 10 pages. It's your role as the player agent to simply simplify the obligations one by one. And then we also have image rights, which I will talk a little bit about later. And destination club, when we're dealing with a club that we're transferring a player, they're looking at the medical, obviously the fitness test. They're looking at the player contract. They're looking at the club contract. Well, for example, if it's a transfer, then they look at player contract in order to assess what transfer fee. Then if the player does accept to come and the club wants to sell, they look at the club contract. Then it's obviously payments. They're always negotiated. Any solidarity contribution or training compensation is basically important. And I'll go briefly through those a bit later. Formation of the contract. So making sure the contract abides by, if it's an international player, FIFA law, national law, the league rules, and finally the ITC, which we all know about, is for international transfers. And the source club, the selling club, for instance, what they would look at is the club contract, the player termination, make sure that payments are received, they transfer a player, maybe by installments, any guarantees by the club who's purchasing the player to make sure they get the money's guaranteed, any solidarity contribution they have to pay to other clubs that were part of a player previously. They would any bonuses or sell-on fees that were negotiated during the contract, and then anti-rival clauses. An anti-rival clause is something that mainly for loans, where sometimes in some competitions, if you sell a player to another team in the same league, you don't want that player to play against that club. So that's the pie, the 4 pieces of where the dynamics are and what are the practicalities that agents need to pay attention from the 4 different perspectives: player agent, player, destination club, and source club. Okay, so you're the agent and you're starting to look for a deal for your player. I've got a little bit of a checklist here. What do you go to different clubs? Do they need these positions? Then you would take that request, and you need to, when you're dealing with clubs, either through your directly or through agents that you know, say in Europe or Asia that you're working with, they really need to be able to what's it called, know the right person in the team, the power broker, the decision maker, the influencer. we all get requirements from clubs in Europe and all that, and that might be from a cut and paste from another agent. We really need to know that these requirements for players in that club are coming from the decision makers in that club, and that's very important. When you also look at clubs, it's very important to search whether the players they need, look at the track record, it's the kind of players the team needs. So your players are the type of players this team has a track record of signing. Once you've done those steps, you offer the CV and video and basically see if there's any interest from there. If there is interest, they like the player, you've got either a rep agreement or a mandate to ask for a serious offer from the club and obviously provide the passport. If the club is interested, you bring that concrete offer to the player. If he says yes or she says yes, you get the invitation letter. Invitation letter from there moves on to the modalities of travel. So if your player's in Nigeria or in Ghana or in Senegal and needs to go to Europe, you need to organise with the club the visas, the transport, the accommodation, the airline tickets as it builds. Obviously, you bring the player to the club. You're there with the player. You're the agent, and if you're if the player gets signed, you arrange. Obviously, you're there. The integration, the salary, the ITC. That's more the club's responsibility. Any visa requirements or anything else, and then you would collect your commission or fee. Now, let's go to the next slide about this is where, and sorry to go through all that. I just thought I'd give the background of how we build up the deal. Michael asked me to talk about, as a successful football agent, what are the negotiation skills and tactics you should utilize once you're in the office of the club negotiating a deal for a player, or even these days on a Zoom call because we can't travel as much as we used to. These are some of my little tidbits of advice that I've utilized over the years when you're sitting with the president, the coach, the secretary in the room with your player in Europe or in Asia. So when you go into a club office, you leave the player outside. You as the agent, and if you've got an assistant, you start the negotiations. The player will start outside. You introduce the player in Europe, in the European club or the Asian club. You say your niceties. You have a bit of a chat, but the player starts outside the negotiation room. When you are close to a deal or agreement, or there's pivotal moments where the club's saying, no, we want it for 3 years or 2 years, or we want this salary, then you ask for a break in the negotiations and you meet the player outside for further instructions. And you come back in. Even if sometimes you have to go out 2-3 times, that's fine. But you remember, as the agent and the intermediary, you are reliant on the player's instructions. So there's no hesitation of asking the people in the room from the club that you need to go outside again and again. The player only comes into the office when it's time to sign the deal. That's the time. Unless an offer's been made already, you already have an offer on the table, that's different. But when you're negotiating after a trial or you're negotiating figures, they come in when it's time to sign. During your negotiation, there's no need to play smoke and mirrors. You be transparent what you want, what the player wants. You be organized. You have your paperwork. You have everything in order, your representative agreement, your passport. You have, you'd be prepared. You've done your research, and you always be honest and frank with the club. They would appreciate that more than any bravado. Very important, the next point, do your research. What is the value of your player? You need to know the value of your player in terms of financial value, but also value to the team that he may sign for. Where he fits in the club playing squad, research the squad to see what other players are in those positions. For him to continue on his professional journey, he needs to be playing. So you need to assess the squad to make sure he's just not a squad or a substitute. He's a player that's integral to the to that team and able to move through the pathway of a professional to, you know, improve his career and get more opportunities. Research the club. Do they pay on time? What are their facilities like? Who are the coaches? What's the playing style? You need to know these things in the negotiation, because these are selling points that you will tell the club that, yes, his playing style suits what the coach wants. And you need this player in order to ramp up the salary that you may get. If a deal cannot be agreed, move on. Don't hesitate to walk out and say, we don't agree. Nothing wrong with that. If the club wants the player and they'll talk behind closed doors, they will follow you up. How many times have you gone back to the hotel room with the player and knock on the door? You've used leverages. You may say that we've got other clubs also interested, and they tell you to come back to the office. Don't be scared to move out of the office and go back to the hotel. A good agent needs to know the local market of the transfer fees, if that applies, the wages and the bonus packages. And I'll go into the bonus packages a little bit later. Something that I always think in a good negotiation and tactic, you ask for a salary review every 6 months. If you've got a good player who's playing, every 6 months, you know, put in a clause that a salary review should happen. Negotiate all expenses in the player contract. Remember, before you agree to the salary and to the bonuses, make sure that it's identified in the contract who's going to pay the tax, so you exactly know the amounts. The best thing is to advise the club to pay the tax, and whatever wages and bonuses and agreed salary, they are net figures. Very important, because a lot of tax has become a big problem for elite players around the world and for everyone. So very important aspect in your negotiation. Make the first offer. And the way you make the first offer says, this is much we want. This is the amount. And you can give examples of other players of similar caliber to your own player who are on those wages or bigger wages. You make the first offer. For an agent to say, oh, what are you going to offer? That looks a bit weak. That puts it in their court. You take the front foot. You make the first offer and say, we want this much. We want these type of bonuses. We want this type of salary. We want these type of conditions. You know, what have you got for us? Put it on the table. And then you can negotiate from there. There's no point in waiting for them to put something to you and say, okay, let's sign. If you want to be an effective negotiator and agent and do the best for your client, always make the first offer. Okay, I'll go into some other key skills. When you walk into a meeting, do not be smart, do not show too much bravado, but be confident. Have excellent interpersonal skills, including listening to what's being said, but also ensuring you're communicating effectively and talking proper football terminology in terms of transfers and contracts. Attention to detail, also very important. Michael mentioned before about lawyers and bankers and accountants getting involved in football. If you don't have legal expertise, it's important to have someone on your side that can help you with that as an agent, because each country's got different national regulations, has got different employment laws. So you need to know a little bit about that at the negotiation. So you can ask for, do I need to get a working permit? How long can I stay in the country? I mean, passports. Can I bring my wife or my spouse or my kids? All these sort of things. Can they go to school? You know, all these things are important. So you do need to understand a little bit the legal and regulatory framework of that legal country. Show that you're trustworthy. What you say is what you do. So if you say tomorrow, we're going to think about it. We're going to come back to you by 11 o'clock tomorrow. You come back. If you say, we're going to review this contract, we're going to go back to the hotel and come back at this time, you do that. You turn up on time. You got to show that you're trustworthy and not wishy-washy. Very important skill as part of the negotiation. Because if you're shown as trustworthy, the club will deal with you on other players as well. And it's about relationships. Because as agents, we may lose the players. There are always other agents who are always looking for top players that we may have. But you cannot afford to lose the club relationships, because that is fundamental as well. Listen to the client, what they want. You don't want players to be ambushed into making decisions. You need to understand their expectation. And in that, when you advise a player, you look at the financial side and the sports side. Some players go overseas too early and then they get caught up and they don't make it. Very important to look at the sports side that they're playing compared to the financial side. Extensions of contract, transfer strategy, that changes by day depending on the club. The transfer window puts pressure on agents, puts pressure on players, put pressure on clubs. You can change your strategy negotiation according to how much time you got on the transfer window. Okay, now I'll go into bonuses and other types of fees. These are important clauses as a agent that you need to know about, and I've tried to break them down very simply. When you negotiate a contract for a player, the sign-on fee. What type of sign-on fee should be paid to the player? Should it be by installments? And that should be set out in the contract. This is separate to the salary, of course. These types of fees or contractual clauses which relate to fees that are all separate to the salary, the weekly or monthly salary. Relocation allowance and travel expenses. That's important if you're relocating to a new country. Some countries will give the player some money to find a house or accommodation, pay for transport, pay for flights. That's all very important, and that should be negotiated, and also put in the contract, especially if the contract's for more than 1 year. If the player wants to go back to Ghana or go back to Ivory Coast or go back to Philippines, the club can pay for that. Appearance and match fees. Additional fees can be paid by the club to the player for making the match day squad, playing in a league match. So you can have separate fees outside the salary as part of your bonus structure for appearances and match fees. Bonuses. Different countries have different bonuses. There's various types that can exist. Some are here, I've mentioned, ask for a goal bonus. Every goal scored, top goal scorer, a number of goals equals this much. Very important. Assists. For midfielders especially, or wingers, an assist given bonus. How many times have they set up the striker and given assists? You can incorporate a bonus there. For goalkeepers, clean sheet bonus. And then also team bonuses for winning the championships, making cup finals, making finals of a confederation tournaments. And then the final one is transfer or release clause. And that's more of a fixed fee in relation to, and countries have got different types of transfer clauses, but that's the transfer clause that a new club that wants that player who's contracted, it's set, and if they meet the price, he can transfer. The important thing about a transfer fee, the other thing is, players can now claim of 10, maybe 15, maybe 20% of their transfer fee. So you make sure agents can't claim it, but players can claim as part of that transfer fee and get paid that amount. But you've got to make sure you put that in the contract. Now, the next two slides relate to trading compensation and transfer of minors. I don't think I'll go through too much of that because I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. It's basically training compensation is for players under 23. when they sign their first contract or subsequent transfer. And we've also got the transfer of minors. Now, the transfer of minors is going to be a very interesting one because I've seen the new draft regulations and they're looking at players who are 16. You can actually look at players over 16 and charge them a commission depending on what happens, but also there is new certifications about dealing with minors that are going to be part of the new regulations. So you will need, all of us as agents will have to pass certain tests and certain continuous education to deal with minors. That's going to be a very interesting area where the transfer of minors may be affected down the track into Europe and elsewhere, and also into England because of Brexit. Okay. Michael mentioned to me that he wanted me to talk about loans, player loans, very briefly, and with player loans, it's pretty much the same as a transfer. It's governed by the FIFA regulations on status of transfer players. It's the same rules as a permanent transfer. Training compensation and solidarity mechanisms still apply. So a club can still have to pay training compensation even though they're loaning a player. It's processed through the FIFA TMS. If it's an international loan agreement between a club in one country to another country. Clubs can enter loan agreements during the transfer windows, the same as transfer agreements. So it's pretty much the same application. Some associations allow teams to loan outside the window, especially goalkeepers, especially if they've got a lot of injured goalkeepers. They may allow them to loan goalkeepers into the club. The maximum loan period a player can go is between the two transfer windows. So say 6 months. Normally the time difference between two transfer windows is 6 months for countries. That's the minimum loan period a player can go. And loans can be extended between clubs. The key with loans is they can be just a loan where the two clubs agree for one club to pay most of the salary or both to pay half the salary, or they can add buyout clauses. So for instance, if the player does really well, there's an option on the loan. There's an option for the club that he's gone to buy him out with, there's a buyout clause. So that's something that works with loans. And we've noticed that a lot of European clubs, Manchester City and Chelsea and English clubs loan out a lot of players. But I think under the FIFA's doesn't really like it as much. And there may be some more limitations coming on in relation to loaning players. Now, with a loan and a sale, I've put the next slide. You'll see here, it's a little bit hard to read, I'm afraid, but basically whether a player goes on loan, what's the motivation for the loan and what's the motivation for the sale. In terms of a loan, if a player is not part of a club squad, they may go on loan in order to get first team experience. The key is here that basically to get first team experience, so those players can become ready as professionals, especially a lot of English Premier League clubs. They loan a lot of players to League One and League Two for those players to get experience, especially younger players. But also by going on loan, players can maximize their value. If they're playing a lot of games, there's an opportunity there to maximize their value. So if you've got players and they're not getting opportunities, it's always good to try to push a loan. And I put that little chart with some of the considerations that you need to take into account to assist the club to get your player on loan so they can be playing. Because the number one quality of players, sale value, their transfer value is playing games and playing well, of course. Okay. All right, football player endorsements, sponsorship. Let's talk about that. The most common type of sponsorship or endorsement is the boot. It starts off with the boot. Nike, Adidas, Puma, New Balance, Under Armour. I maybe missed one there, but it always starts with the boot. But we all know players get boots, but that's pretty much most players in the squad will get a boot deal. But in order to develop endorsement and sponsors, boot deals for a lot of these companies have another aim, and that is basically to not just for the player who gets a sponsorship deal from, say, Nike to wear the boot, but to wear other apparel and brand products. So it's not just a boot deal. If your player gets a boot deal, and you need to focus on getting some other apparel there so they can get a little bit more other products from, say, for instance, Nike. A boot deal, the way it works is you wear the boots, you may wear some apparel. It's about a brand ambassadorial role for, say, Nike. And it's all about giving, and now we've got social media, so you can take a lot more give a lot more exposure to the brand you're wearing if you've given a boot deal. And that's, personal appearances, photo shoots, social media activations on Instagram and Twitter, and recording advertisements. So when you're giving a boot deal, you're basically going, you're featuring the product on your social media. Now, with a lot of these deals, if your player does get one of those deals, it's about performance clauses, and there's performance clauses and restrictive clauses. This is about if you're given a boot deal, the Nike or the Puma will ask for ensure that their products, like sunglasses or phone accessories, are also advertised. But also, with a boot deal, there may be performance where you're playing, you're performing as a player. That's always part of a deal. And there's also restrictive clauses, which are where you can't wear another brand's products. So but most players, their first sponsorship or first endorsement is a boot deal, which can move to other products from that company. The next thing I want to show you is a sponsorship strategy. This is a little chart that may help you. This is something that I've had for a long time, from 2017. This is if I've got a good player who's marketable, who will sell boots, who will advertise well for the company that they've got a sponsorship agreement. Initially, what I get them to do is fill out this little sheet here. And this is for the player. And the player will write down and say, okay, these are my ambitions. My passion may be to play in a World Cup. My professional is to be a pro player. Sport is obviously football. My personal goals, they set it out. Then they list the kind of sponsors, the target sponsors they want to. Is it Nike? Is it a company in Nigeria that's got some great products? We set out the target, the timeline, and then what kind of activities they want to do. What do they want to do? They're happy to just do Instagram and take pictures. Do they want to do videos? So you use this as a template with your player. They put the information on there. So then when you approach brands, you know what they want. And then you've got here the thing about my unique value. What can that player offer the brand? Very important, because if you're going to get a brand interested in your player, besides their performance, they've got to offer them something. They've got to offer return on investment. How are they going to do that? So when you do approach a sponsor, this little template here gives you the information you need from your player to approach the sponsor directly. If we go to the next chart, let's talk about endorsements. Image rights. Image rights are very big in England, in Germany, in a lot of the European countries, and then also in China, in MLS, in a lot of leagues. So when we talk about endorsements, we're talking about mainly image right contracts. Image right contracts are basically contracts where you give the club the rights to use your image, your name, your pictures to promote itself. So the club signs an image right deal with you, the agent which negotiates, you give them the rights to use your picture and you get compensated for that. To structure one of those deals, you need to make sure you've got a structure where you basically set out, as the agent, you're obviously going to negotiate this deal, set out what rights you're giving to the club, for which countries, territories, where they can market you. So is it Europe-wide? Is it Africa-wide? Is it all those markets? What rights have been granted? So what is it? Just your picture? Is it basically showing what's it called, your goals, whatever may be the case? You need to value your image rights. Very important to put a value on there. How much you're willing to sell your image rights to the clubs. Clubs have been doing this for a long time, so they have certain values, but you need to make sure that you're happy with what they offer to your player. And then it's the license fee. So to use your image, you get paid a license fee. Now, with image rights, a lot of agents tell their players to set up companies in order to have, instead of the income going to the player to get taxed more heavily, they go to a company. So that company might be in a tax haven. But image right companies, if your player's going to set it up, they're only worth it if the player is a big name, like he's earning a lot of money on image rights, Ronaldo or Messi or Pogba. All these players, they will need image right companies. For smaller players who don't have, who may not get a lot of value, it may not be worth setting up a separate company to manage those image rights on your behalf. Okay. Top negotiating tips on sponsorship deals. Basically, this is a little bit about the club's brand and partnership rules. So you need to sort of know if you give image rights to the club, they can allow those rights to be used by sponsors, their sponsors, the club sponsors. So you need to make sure in the image rights deal that if you've got as a personal your own brands, that they don't conflict with the club's brand. So you need to negotiate that you can use, you can advertise personally with certain brands and they don't conflict with the club's brands, because that's the way it's sort of negotiated, and that's what the agent has to do. Basically, also clubs, and it works both ways, clubs have morality clauses in image right deals and anti-embarrassment clauses, which means that a player has got to make sure that they're behaving on the pitch, they're behaving on social media, they're behaving on the football, and also in their private lives, because sponsors and image rights and clubs don't want a player who's causing a lot of grief, a lot of media attention, because that hurts the sponsors, that hurts the clubs, that hurts everyone who wants to use that player's image. Now, I'll also mention here a bit about social media. I won't go too much into it, but there's a little bit information about how to use your social media for sponsors. And one of the things that some sponsors do, they expect players, if they do endorsement deal, to tweet, to Facebook, to Instagram. The player must post a certain amount a week on their product or surrounding their product. So there's some of the agreements that are made in the negotiation for an endorsement deal. Okay, I've just got a few more slides. Basically, interesting today, the BBC, there's an article on the BBC saying Gareth Bale and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who on FIFA, the EA Sports FIFA game, have said enough's enough. We don't want, without getting paid, we don't want EA Sports, who've got the FIFA game, video game, using their names. they've been the EA Sports FIFA games been making profits for a very long time without any of their agreement by using Zlatan or Bale and maybe also other major names. So this is it. This is now players have become a lot more involved in endorsement and image right deals. Image right deals, what they give to the club to use their image, and their own endorsement deals to make money. They can endorse some of these console games, these FIFA games, and get some money from EA Sports. So a good agent, and we know a lot of the leading agents now, Minariola, Mendes, Barnett from England, they're very much onto negotiating the commercial value of their players. And this is an instance that's just come up now that Ibrahimovic and Gareth Bale are not happy. And I'm sure their agents will be in touch with EA Sports to say, look, you want to use our client's image or our client's name. Our clients are well known around the world. You need to pay for it. Okay. That's the end of my presentation. I didn't want to go too much over time. Any questions?
If you have, hello everyone. If you have question, you can just click the raise hand icon. Any question? Unmute yourself and Ibrahim Swarao.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Peter, for the presentation today. I just have a quick question. Can you give us like any tip or any hint on how to establish connection with influencers in a football club?
Peter.
The easiest way, yes.
Yeah.
Basically, to make a connection, two things are required. Obviously, the personal connection is the best, and that is to either attend conferences where there's a lot of agents and clubs, and one of those is Y Scout, which just happened 3 days ago. I've been to a couple of Y Scout conferences in Europe where you meet a lot of club representatives and also other agents. If you can afford that, to go to Europe and go to those Y Scout conferences or other football conferences like SoccerX and that's one way. The second way is establish a relationship with an intermediary in one of the European countries you want to deal with. And with that, they can introduce you to some of their circle and their network. Also, the other thing is you can always approach. There's a lot of football directors want to see fresh people and fresh talent. They don't want to deal always with the same people. So first of all, if you've got a good client base and a good name, you can always ask by email, because now it's much harder to travel, for a Zoom call, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to introduce yourself, introduce your company, introduce your players, and try to establish that relationship. I think much more football directors and coaches are much more inclined to deal with agents through a Zoom call to get introduced because of the travel restrictions. But the key way to do it is to try to get yourself into the markets, at conferences where you can meet clubs, because to go into a country and then start going to all the clubs, it costs a lot of money to go to 10 clubs in one country. So I would say basically try to get yourself into some of the Y Scout or other type of events. And I know with Michael, I think Michael went to some of the European Football Agent Association events. They're another way of meeting agents who can introduce you to clubs as well.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Any more questions? first season.
Yeah, hello, Mr. P. How you doing? I really do
Very
appreciate
well.
all. Yeah, really do appreciate all what you've given. Wish I can have a question about. I believe that with the way you're going, since you'll still be talking, you'll still be giving all lectures tomorrow. I believe my question now
He won't
may
be
be
available
part of what you're
tomorrow.
going to be.
He won't be.
I won't be available tomorrow. I've got the Spanish business, doing business in Spain guide, and then I've got the FIFA. I'm one of the 19 pro bono councils for FIFA to deal with disciplinary matters, and we've got a big Zoom conference, a training conference with the FIFA lawyers. So I'm not available tomorrow, but you've got Marcus Motta and another Brazilian instructor who are going to be very good. But ask me your questions. I'm happy to answer it.
Oh, wonderful. Please, as an agent, I believe that the main purpose of each and every one of us to go into this is to make money. Yeah, we really want to make money. And with what Mr. Mike has said before you came, he said we can make between 3% to 10% from the from the player. But I believe that in this, I would like to know which particular area of the contract will our maybe 3% or 10% be coming up from? Is it on everything that the player signed for, or every money that the player will be getting, including the bonuses, the endorsements, and everything, or the or where we can just get our money from is just through just through the main contract, like the sign-up fee and everything. So that's what I really want to know. Please don't mind me. I love money so much.
No,
And if I'm going to be putting my strength into anything, I really want to know what I'm getting back in return. Yeah, thank you very much.
Now, right now, the average commission worldwide is 6.8%. Average commission, player agent commission, is 6.8%.
Good.
Right, worldwide. So you've got the 10%, and some agents charge 3%. In the contract, it works this way. You normally have the contract with the player, so you can 3, 5, 10%. There's no caps at the moment. That's going to change, and I'm sure there'll be a session discussing the FIFA changes, which at the moment you won't be able to get more than 6, maybe 10%. But basically, you've got the commission fee, which comes from the player. Now, if you're representing the player, if you're representing the club, you can agree to a separate commission with them, right? With the image rights, that's separate. The way you do the image rights is you have a rep agreement with the player for the playing contract for the transfers, and have your commission 3, 6, 10%. With the image rights, if you're able to get a player image rights, boot deals, your commission is not limited. Most people who get image rights for players or those commercial deals charge up to 20%. Separate.
Oh, awesome.
But you've got to have a second contract with the player, which is only related to image rights and commercialization of their image, endorsement, sponsorship. So any endorsement, sponsorship, or image rights deal you bring to the player, you can charge most 10. Some agents charge 20%, and that's where you make more of your money. In terms of negotiating the player deal, the club contract, at the moment we can charge maybe 10. That's the market rate. 5, 3, depending on the country. You don't have as much leeway there, because if you price yourself too high, competitors will be much lower. But secondly, you have to get the money from the player, unless you are representing the club, or unless in a lot of countries like in Asia or MLS, for instance, in MLS, the MLS pay the agent fee. So whatever the fee is, if it's 5%, 10%, they'll pay it on behalf of the player. So it depends on the market. But I will say this, sir, 4 seasons, it's going to get harder.
Please come again, Peter.
Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Can I go ahead?
Please
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Still part of this financial issue. I'm still part of this money thing. Yeah, seriously, I really want to put more of my strength into it. I still really want to know what I want to get. What I'm looking at is that in the contract, everything that you're going to get. Okay, let's just put it an example now. Let's just assume that your player is going to be signed for 3 years, and if the 3 years contract is going to be like, let's just say 10 million, let's just say $10 million, as the bonuses be added to the $10 million, or the bonus is just quite different and you're going to be getting different percentage from that, what's it called, from the sign-up fee, which is 10%? Because I'm new into this, so I really want to know what is really going on before I can really venture and put all my strength into it. If the player, yeah, seriously.
Look, it's very, very, very difficult to. There's a lot of competition, and I don't want to dissuade you. If the money situation, unless you've got top players, and I think as I mentioned in my slide, most players are getting less than $4,000 a month.
Let's start with that. So, let's start with that, please.
Yeah. But the thing is, you can claim, depending on what your rate is, 3-5% from the player for the salary, or you can look at the gross amount, being the bonuses, everything that's been negotiated. You can claim a percentage of that. What you can't claim is from the transfer fee. You can't claim money from that. Agents are not allowed.
Okay.
So really, it's the contract you negotiate the full amounts, and that's why I mentioned when you negotiate net.
Good.
Because you don't want to pay tax. You want the club pay the tax.
Awesome.
And you'll get 5, 10, whatever it may be of that amount. But I will say a caveat that it's going to be harder to make money unless you have a lot of players transferring and doing deals, because FIFA's also setting up a clearinghouse with all the intermediary payments internationally will go through. So they'll monitor a lot of this. So if you're just looking from the money angle and not from helping people and the excitement of the deal and networking and enjoying the profession, it's going to be much difficult going forward.
Okay. Thanks very much. Cheers, man.
Yeah, easy. You are on. Easy. Anyway, Emmanuel Henry.
Okay. Good day.
You are welcome.
How are you?
Emmanuel Henry, unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Okay, you are on now.
Okay. So for beginners like us who are just coming into the business, do I have 1 or 2 players I'm trying to push, working on, get it? And I'm just starting. I know it will take little time for them to get to that place they ought to be in the football. Now, aside them, as I'm trying to push them, is there other way in the field I can also make little in earning to support them in pushing them up?
Sorry, I didn't understand. I didn't understand that question. Is it
okay,
you want support with your players? Is that what you're saying, or?
Okay, what I'm saying is this. I'm just starting, and I have these players. I'm trying to push them. I buy boots for them. I support them with finance and some other things with the little business I'm doing. You get it? For a starter like me, is there any other aspect in the business that I can make little earning that will help me to push them further than this?
Any other aspect in the business where you can push them?
For
I think he's trying to know if there is any way he can earn money while still pushing the players in football.
Look, I think at the end of the day, it's if you're not making deals, it's very hard to make money. So basically, what you can do is offer, do some things like talent identification for other European agents in Africa or things like that. But to make money out of the players who are not earning professional contracts, it's very, very difficult. It's about them. If you get when they get their first deal, then you can be paid. Players have to be professional for you to get paid. So I don't know the circumstances where you are, but to be able to make money, it's really about completing transactions and deals.
Okay, aside my aside my own players, can I support others in their deals, their contract? Can I help other intermediaries as well?
Have what? Sorry.
Let's try to know if I can answer that. You can collaborate with as many intermediaries as possible. If you want to work with, I'm working on the transfer of a player and you want to collaborate, we can do it together. There is collaboration. Collaboration is allowed.
You just got to make sure that with you have rep agreements and then mandates. You've got to remember a lot when you collaborate with an overseas agent, a lot of people use mandates. But mandates, you need to make sure each country has different laws that apply to mandates because they're not maybe a contract. The mandate only shows you've got power over that you represent the player. But if another agent you're dealing with collaborates with you and then does the deal and doesn't want to pay you for your players, that it may be difficult to enforce. So you have to be careful with your collaborations to make sure your paperwork is watertight because there is a player contract, a representative agreement is enforceable in the law. But a lot of times when you collaborate with other agents under mandates and which you expect to share 50% each the fee, not always enforceable, and you may not be able to get your money if an agent decides not to pay you the one that you may have collaborated with in another country.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. All right. First is
thank you.
Ibrahim.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Peter, for the questions so far. I just have 2 quick questions. Firstly, the things the agent needs to send to the football club while trying to showcase the football players to the club. You made mention of articles. I do not clearly understand what you meant by articles. Then secondly, my question is, in most cases or in all cases, who pays for the players' travel if a player will be going from a different country? Is it the football agent? Is it the player themselves or the clubs? Thank you.
Okay. To answer to your question, 2 things. As an agent, you really need to have a good relationship with media, okay? And with the media, if you can get some local sports journalists and that, if your player performs very well, and you can write 1 or 2 articles about your player, you can use those when you promote your player, the CV, the video, the article. So what I mean by the article in the paper, on the website about your player. So you would send that with the CV, the resume, as well as the video to show that the player's, is renowned in the country, he's playing well for the club. So any of that information. So that's why sometimes, and especially in Australia, a lot of times us agents, we do 2 things with the media. One is if our player's playing well and ambitious, we try to get an article to get them to write something, and we can use that as interest for other clubs. The second thing is if we have a player that may have interest, we try to put a story where we say that 3 or 4 clubs may be interested or European clubs, and that by pushing that, it interests other clubs. So it promotes your player. Now, the second question, it depends on the country you're from. If I'm sending Australian players overseas for trials, they would pay. If a professional Australian player is going overseas to trial or to sign a contract, the overseas club will pay. However, in parts of Africa and also in Eastern Europe, I know in Croatia and Serbia, they have a lot of times the agent will pay for the player to go for the trial or to go to the other country to see if they're going to sign a contract. So it all comes down to the different countries, how they work. In Australia, sometimes we'll pay for an up-and-coming player, but generally, a good player of ours, a club will invite and pay for them to go over. But it depends on how good the player is, if they're a current professional. Because if they're a current professional, then the club should pay. Agents should really only pay if the players don't have money and they want to promote their players to get them in trials in certain European countries or Asian countries. But on the proviso that you get paid, should the player get a professional contract, he repays you for the travel, etc. You have that agreement.
Thank you. Izzy.
Thank you.
Hello. Where is it?
Hello. 2 more questions.
Pangushi.
Yeah. The question I'm trying to ask is this. As an intermediary, all the players, is it mandatory to sign contracts with all the players you have under your watch? Even if you have as many as 4, 5, 6, thereabouts. Is it mandatory to sign contracts with them? Because contracts are binding, and eventually sometimes it doesn't work out for some players. So now if you have a contract with them and eventually it doesn't work out, there's a minus on the side of the intermediary. So how can one go about all these kind of issues? That's my question.
With your top players in clubs, you sign contracts. With your up-and-coming players, you've got 2 options. If you've got a good relationship, you don't really need initially to sign a contract until you're close to a deal, okay? Because that protects you. If you can't deliver the deal, you don't lose face. Or you can, if you want to sign contracts with a player, you can do it non-exclusively. So for example, in Germany, you can't sign exclusive contracts. We know this with players, so they're non-exclusive. So you can always tell a player, if another agent comes with a better deal, I will collaborate. I'm not totally exclusive. So you've got 3 options. For your top players in the big clubs, or players that are really in the national teams and all that coming through, always have your contracts. With up-and-coming players that you think are going to make it or close, have maybe a non-exclusive contract. But if another agent approaches or a club, they must tell you, okay? So you can collaborate. And then with other players that you think may make it, may not, you can just have a verbal arrangement until some time you think you can deliver. You have to be flexible and you got to have these strategies. You can't be just signing players. And then if you don't deliver, you know how players are. The younger generation, they want a deal. If you don't deliver, you lose your name if you've locked them in without providing options.
Thank you. Last question. 4 season.
Yeah, hello, P. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm so grateful for everything you've done, the lecture that you've given unto us. But I'm coming back to the collaboration of a friend. Okay, let's put it this way. I have a player here in Nigeria, and I'm trying to get a deal there in Australia. And I look at you that, okay, fine. I have P over there in Australia. Let's just put this thing together. Let's see if we can work all together. So that means, will I be acting like a manager of the player while you act like the acting agent over there? That's the first question. Then number 2, I want to share money. I'm just looking at it. Was it called the percentage? I'm sticking to the going to get that 10%, or I'm going to have a different 10%, and you have a different maybe 6 point something percent, and all together we are having above 10% from what FIFA really want from us. That's just a question. Both question, please. Go ahead. I would like to hear from you. Thanks.
Okay. First of all, we would the way it works right now. If you want to put your player into Australia, I'm the football intermediary, the agent in Australia, because I'm registered. You're not. So the player, you will either mandate me, because you must first of all have a representative agreement with the player. If you do not have a representative agreement, then the player will have to give me a mandate or a representative agreement. Now, if you have a representative agreement, you mandate me, and we have an agreement to say if I get a deal for your player in Australia and it be registered in my name because I'm registered here, we will share the fee 50-50, for instance. Now, there's no two fees. There's only the one fee from the player or the club, and you will share it. You can't have 10% for you and 10% for me. It would be 10% if that was what we're charging the player or the club, and we share that 50-50. You can't double dip.
P, what are you saying? Are you saying I got my, what's it called? I got my certificate here in Nigeria. Are you saying the FIFA certificate I have here in Nigeria for intermediary cannot work there in Australia? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. What I'm saying, I'm just giving an example, Australia, but it applies in a lot of countries. Italy, France, if you don't register in those countries, then you can't do business there unless you're using a local agent. With Australia, you can, if you have a connection to a club and you do the deal, you have no problem registering here. There's no worries. Some clubs allow it. Sorry, some countries allow you to deal directly in those countries. Germany, for instance, as well. But some countries like England, Scotland, Italy, France, Spain, if you're not registered there as an intermediary, you will have to use a local intermediary. With Australia, you can probably do the deal directly if you knew the club.
Whoa.
However, if you don't have a connection, you may have to want to use an Australian agent who would then tell you 50-50 on the deal. You understand what I'm saying? Certain countries, you can, if you've got connection, you can do it directly from Nigeria. Yeah, but certain other countries you can't.
All right, thank you.
Thanks very much, P.
Thanks, everyone. We are going to go on a 5-minute break. But when we come back, Eddie Ogbemodia will be our next instructor. Peter, thank you for your time.
Yes.
It's been a wonderful time being with you today.
And I read your book. Very good. Very nice.
Wow,
I'm glad that I'm hoping it's having good circulation.
Wow,
you're promoting it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best, guys. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Peter. Bye.
Yeah, cheers, P. See you soon.
Thank you. See you
soon. Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
5 minutes break.
5-minute break.
Okay, Mr. Mike.
Mr. Mike, are you there?
See my doctor.
Yeah.
Dr. Ibrahim. Great Mike Sports. Mike, I'm here with you.
Mr. Mike, are
How
you
are
there?
you, sir?
I'm here.
Yeah, you heard P. You heard everything he said.
Clearly.
Yeah, so that means if we really want to work with players, we'll still have to have some additional, what's it called, certificate in some countries.
No,
we just have to start looking for it.
Not that you need a certificate in another country. You know, there are laws in some countries like France, Spain, England, Scotland. They made the law that external agent cannot negotiate in their country except you make use of their agent. They want the tax, the commission to come to their country. Manchester United is paying 10% commission to Pogba agent. They want the commission to land in England. That's why they make the law. in Spain, they want the money to land in their country so that they can have their own, they can have the agent must pay the
Yeah,
tax.
Mr.
And
Mike, I can really understand what you're saying. I can really understand
so
what
you
you're
don't need,
saying, but
if you want to
do you realize
transact,
that
if
that's
you have
an
a
additional, that's an additional work. That's
no,
another additional work
you
for
can just
a
look
Mr.
Nigerian
Mike,
for a
agent.
registered agent in that country. Like Peter said, you are
Okay.
transferring you have a transaction in England. You look for an agent in England. You make the deal that will
Okay.
represent you there. It's only citing an example as 50-50. Since you are the owner of the
Mr. Mike,
transaction, you
The
can
player.
take 70%, and the agent that will represent you will take 30%. It's just for him to represent you.
Okay.
Yeah. Now that
Yeah.
he's going to
But
hijack the
but
contract.
Mr. but Mr. Mike,
Yeah.
we all know that most of our players that haven't spoken with the white before, sorry for using such word, spoken with the white before, haven't gone abroad before. There's high tendency that if you're not careful, you may lose your player after the first deal, because the agent that you've shown, the agent that you've said that was equal to introduce to represent you over there. I have a very high tendency to be contacting your players, to be seeing your players physically more than you do, because you're in Nigeria and they are both over there.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm trying to say? It's like you're still giving your meat to the cat or to the dog to eat.
Mr. Mike,
Don't know
can
what
I
we're
come
talking
in?
about. And sorry, please. And the second one lies that I believe with the little experience that I've had in this footballing this thing, I think in Nigeria here we use a word like I am the player's manager, he is the player's agent, he is this, he is that. Mr. Mike, you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
How are we going to get that? Yeah, how are we going to get that out? So definitely now we have because anybody that is sponsoring a player now will say, oh, because I've been sponsoring this player, I've been buying him boots, I've been doing this, I've been giving him money to eat, I've been bringing him to do this. So I am directly the manager. So, and I still want to act like the manager, I want to act like the agent. Seriously, okay? Please don't let me go too far. We all know what I'm talking about.
Anyway, the word manager is wrong.
Thank you. That's what I'm
It's
saying.
wrong. There is no manager. We only have agent. We have the manager. You can call the manager a coach, the manager.
Good.
No player
Because when I
manager.
searched through the FIFA, whatever things, I never saw anything like player manager
There is
there.
no player manager. It's wrong. So,
Mr. Mike, in
yeah,
some regards,
my
we do
general
have
Felix secretary.
where you come up about come on.
Your
Hello,
signal is
my signal is serious. Can you hear me now?
okay, clearly.
Yeah, where you come up as issue of managers or so, we agents in Nigeria here and the way we operate, we tend to forget about. The player could have a manager, but that talks about his image, right? Somebody who will manage his commercials and others. Some agents forget that area, and those are the areas where you can secure a very big deal. And in that case, somebody who manage the image, talks about go to the media, do all those things. Who call himself when you manage a player, different from when you can, as an agent, you can just broker a deal and go.
Yes.
But somebody who is managing a player, work out both his commercials and others, who call himself a complete manager. Because that person is the one who worked about to get the player's name good, do everything to ensure that the players spend his money wisely, do some of that. And all other agents, we only talk about the money. Managing player itself is another thing that we have to look into. So, but just like what the man said, Mr. P said, and I was very happy he separated it. In talking about the manager, you can sign even up to 30%, 40%, depending on how you negotiate. So when it comes to his image, is this, is that you from commercial, you make more money from players. So if a player has a different manager and is handling all that, and you just broker a deal and go. So the manager do the job, the agent look for a place to get the deal, he gets his own deal and go away. So in some cases, in what matters most is for agent to be a complete agent. When you see a player that is not just giving you if a player just give you a mandate, just look for club, you do that job and go. But once a player you are managing, that brings in that you are the manager, and at the same time you work as the agent. So securing, we agent has advantage of being the managers of our players.
Believe me, you're speaking English.
I'm not just speaking English.
And
sorry about that. Sorry about that.
And when this man talk about the issue of this other agents talking about we getting agents in other places, we don't really need it. All we need is network. If you have good network, try to build relations with good agents in other places who is well licensed. You have your player. All you need to do, once you have the player, you are setting up it's just to work together. Collaborations, give mandate out. The person's sick, and you get your
that was what he said.
Everything is good.
That was what he said.
So we don't really need to go and be registering everywhere. No, I understand. It's only issue of when we are talking about manager or that. I'm trying to say our job is also. You can separate manager out of in an agent.
We are agents. We are also manager.
Is what I'm trying to.
We are all agents now.
But some agents, that's what I'm telling you. If you say most of us only work and to say, we think only securing that deal is where it ends. Whereby somebody else there.
Sorry, Mr. Michael, before you come in. Sorry, Morgan, sorry. I believe that Mr. Mike has said virtually everything. He has made us to realize that as as an agent, as an intermediary, we shouldn't be greedy. He don't use the word greedy, but from what he said, he has let us know that we have to network ourselves. We have to be ready to share that percentage that we're talking about between that 3% to 10%. He even made mention of 6.9%. That is, he's trying to let you know that 6.9% can easily go to you, that you have the player. Why the remaining percentage, who is about less than 3% or even 3%, let's just assume that's from 6.9% minus 10%, you have 3.1% left. So that 3.1% can easily go to the what's it called? The international
that represents you.
That represent you. So you should always keep your target on 6.9% and be ready to sacrifice 3.1% to the agent that is representing you. There's nothing like manager anywhere. Sorry, I'm still telling you, I'm just speaking English. What he's just trying to say is just that we are not agents. We have the grip. We have the grip on our own player. So what he's just trying to say that the more, because I told him that me, I love money. I'm like, the reason why I'm going, I want to know what I'm giving them my strength for, what I'm getting back. And he let me realize that if that is my target, then I should be ready to work with so many players. I should be ready to work with so many players. And if I can do that, then I shouldn't be looking at getting money from contracts. I should be looking at getting money from endorsements, because that's where I get more money from. From that, I can break down rules of FIFA. I don't really need to stick to 10%. I can go as far as 20% from endorsement. Yeah, he said it. So that's what I'm just trying to summarize from what. So we saying that because of this, our Nigerian English that we used to speak, saying I'm a manager, so that the player can think that, yeah, I'm the one and all and everything, I'm the almighty and everything. It's not like the intermediary is intermediary, you are still the agent. You have grip on your player more than the international agent. So Mr. Mike, please, you can come in. We still really need your idea.
Endurance is on air today. He has been is an agent, but he has managed a table image right for some years.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
He's our next instructor. Etebo has agent that works on a transfer, but his image right was contracted to Endurance of Bermuda for some years. So he works on the image right. As the agent in charge of transfer is making a small money, Endurance too is getting some money from the image right there. So that's just it. Endurance is an agent.
Sorry, Mr. Mike. Sorry, Mr. Mike. So,
Yep.
Mr. Mike, what we heard today, the what's it called, the photo shot and everything that you gave concerning
Yeah.
Peter's what's it called, the lecture. Please, are we going to get that?
Yeah, the
Are we going to
video
get that
and
from you? The PDF,
the
the
video
video,
and the
yeah.
presentation
Good,
will be
because I would
sent
like
to
to
your
listen to
email.
that again and watch that. Yeah.
No problem, you'll get it. Now,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
uh, Endurance Isori Ogbemodia. Are you on?
Yes, good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon. Endurance is an agent. Well, let me leave you to introduce yourself. You'll be taking out through the compensation, FIFA compensation mechanism. Yeah, FIFA compensation mechanism. Introduce yourself. The floor
All
is
right,
yours.
good afternoon, everyone. It has been a nice discourse. I really appreciate the input of
Let's
some
mute
of
our
us.
mic.
Can you hear me?
Clearly.
Sorry, I want to first of all apologize. I actually had a presentation for this, but some days ago my laptop crashed, and now if I switch to video, though during the course of the training I will make you see my face so that it wouldn't be like it's a ghost that is talking. But if I switch to video now, my audio will not be that clear because of my current location. So I will do more of the talk or via audio while I will prepare my notes to be shared among everyone later. So today I'll be speaking on FIFA compensation mechanism. And just a recap of what Peter said. I want to appeal to us that if we are signing any official document, we shouldn't refer to ourselves as agent or manager. It should be intermediaries if you are registered. Okay, if you are registered, please impute football intermediary. Someone has actually, in fact, is on the verge of losing a case based on technicality that the name appearing on the document is written football agent and he is not a football agent. So he may likely lose that case. They've already told him because there is ambiguity on the documentation. So please, for those that have been registered, anytime you are referring to yourself, please refer to yourself as a football intermediary because that is in line with the FIFA rules. So my major topic today is for us to understand this aspect that our representation as intermediary does not end with players alone. By the grace of God, the highest any have in as an agent came through representing clubs, and it's not even a top club, an amateur club that had a player and we were able to secure solidarity mechanism payments for the player. And I personally, I know I earn a lot from that stuff. So I want us to also have this broad mindset that we can as well represent clubs and also make money from that angle. So the focus should not be on players alone. If you know you have a notable club that develops exceptional players in your locality, it's very important for you to sign them or be their representative. You don't know, maybe tomorrow they might have a big star from nowhere, even though you are not part of the deal directly. But somehow, if you have close affinity with them, you can still pursue the recovery of for some form of compensation for them. All right. As I said, Michael already mentioned earlier, I'll be speaking on the FIFA compensation mechanism. So this afternoon, I want us to understand how amateur clubs can benefit financially from the transfer of former players who are now employed as professional players. You know, one of these basic, in fact, I want to tell you, one of the basic textbooks that you need to have as as a football intermediary is the FIFA ROSTP. When I say FIFA ROSTP, is the FIFA regulation on the status and transfer of player. You can easily download it online from the FIFA website. It's like the textbook that will guide you because it will guide you because if you are representing about representing such player with the existing rules. So you please, I want to appeal to us for some of us that have not seen it. You can just Google it, FIFA RSTP, or just type it in full, FIFA regulations on the status and transfer of players. That will tell you all the regulation concerning how a player is an amateur, how is a professional, what is the player is qualified for, what is expected from the player. So with that, you will have a better understanding of the business you are coming into, because for you to really understand this business better, you must understand the rules and regulations that guides this business. So now going back to my topic for this afternoon, the in 20 in 21, that is 2001, following the famous Bosman ruling, FIFA introduced the training compensation system, which would apply to clubs who were involved in training and education of young players. Now, what is the ideology behind this system? Is to encourage clubs so that they will work more hard and produce quality players, quality players that can at the time move with the cadre to the rank of playing professionally. Now, what is training compensation? Because basically, the compensation that FIFA has actually designed, one of them is training compensation, then the other one is solidarity mechanism. So I'll quickly give a talk on this one so that by the time you are speaking with a club, maybe an amateur club, you tell them this is what you stand to benefit. It has been observed over time that Nigeria club majorly, they don't really fight for this claim. I tell you because of ignorance, and also another major thing because of lack of documentation. Some of them, they will have a player they've been taking care of for years, but they don't have any evidence to even show that this player have been with them, and they've been taking these players to competition. Some coaches even go as far as even feeding and accommodating these players, but they don't have any documents to show that this player have affinity with them. Now, training compensation. What is training compensation? If you get to the FIFA RSTP, the training compensation is defined as is something that should be paid to a player's training club when a player signed his first contract as a professional player. So when a player signs his first contract as a professional player, the club will pay him training compensation. Now, training compensation is defined as in the contract. Now, as I said earlier, further information are there on the FIFA RSTP, but I'm just breaking it down so that you have at least an overview of it, so that when you're speaking with someone about it, you can be able to explain it. The training compensation system applies to the training and education the player receive between the age of 12 and 21, between the age of 12 and 21, and will only be paid till the age of 23. So any player that is more than 23, training compensation will no longer be paid on that. And the obligation to pay training compensation is above transfer fee, meaning that it's more important than transfer fee. So, but at a time when two clubs are dealing, a club can decide, okay, I don't want transfer fee, just pay me training compensation for the years. In most time, over time, you see how it is categorized. Training compensation is even more huge compared to transfer fee, because we have category from different confederation. So now, it should be noted also that FIFA has advised that in dispute, for example, when dispute arrives, the only entitled club can expressly waive their right to training compensation. For example, if a player is leaving an amateur club, say SYZ Football Club in Nigeria, and is going to Real Madrid, and that player trained for SYZ for only 1 year, and he trained for another club again for over 7 years. SYZ cannot say he waived training compensation for all the other clubs. It's only the club that trained the player that can decide to waive it. So if the player is going to sign his first professional contract at that instance, every club that have been involved in training of that player will be entitled to the training compensation for the duration they train that player. Now, let me give you some scenario now. The scenario that applies for the payment of training compensation is when a player is registered as a professional player for the first time, and any subsequent transfer of a player between two clubs or different associations. But now they even change it now, even within the same association, especially in Europe, they will also need to pay training compensation. Now, quickly, let me just go to the categorization so that we understand. For example, now in the category, we have category one, category two, and category three. That's category four. So, for example, let's go to Europe because it's one of the most popular confederation. For example, if you train a player, maybe your Nigeria player, you train him for 1 year, and that player signed immediately for a top Premier League club, let's say for Arsenal. For 1 year that you train that player, Arsenal is paying you 90,000 euro. That is because Arsenal is a category one club. So, for example, you train that player for like say 5 years, you have to multiply nine by five, talking about 450,000 euros. So that is why I say it is even more paramount to take care of training compensation first before you talk about transfer fee. But it can also be paid depending on the agreement that is in place. So it depends on the number of years such a player stays with you, also determine how much it will be paid to that player. Now, the categorization, I will also send the breakdown to Mike so that he sees it. For example, in the Asia Federation Confederation, there is no category one club there, but the first category is category two for any training a player receives. Now, let me explain to you so that you understand. The amount I mentioned, like 90,000 euro that I said, is the assumption that if at all Arsenal train that player from 12 years to 21, that Arsenal will be spending a minimum of 90,000 euro on the development of that player. So you that train that player at that age, Arsenal should give you that equivalent of that money they should have used to spend to take care of that player in their own country. So the training compensation they are paying is that this training, this like just normally I'm supposed to train this player, but you are not the one that training. This is ordinarily this is the amount I would have used to train this player if he had come to UK and I discovered him from 12 years. So this amount I paid to you. So that is why it is categorized for that amount. Then for clubs that are in category two in UEFA, they pay training compensation of 60,000 euro per a season. Then category three talk about 30,000 euro. Category four talk about 10,000 euro. Now, for example, in CAF, because we're in Nigeria, we only have category two, category three, and category four clubs. In fact, only sometimes you see some of our Premier League clubs like Enyimba and the rest, they are category three club. It is estimated that they spend the average of $30,000 training a particular a player. Then like NNL club, NLO, and the rest, most of them are categorized in category three and category four. So, for example, if we want to sign a player from Europe and we need to pay training compensation to them, we'll pay a lesser amount because it's assumed that we spend less to train our players in Nigeria. So that is just the basic for uh, training compensation. Now, the calculation of training compensation is carried out on a pro rata basis. An association are instructed to divide their clubs into a maximum of four categories, which I've mentioned before, category one to four, and with the close financial investment in training players. You know, there is a set of figures attached to them, which I have said earlier. So that is just for the breakdown of the training compensation. Now, the rules regarding training compensation apply both to permanent and temporary transfer of professional players. So it's not that the player is going on loan, so they will not pay training compensation. No, it applies to both. Now, under FIFA's rule, the payment of training compensation is the responsibility of the club, which is registering the player. So the club like Arsenal that is signing a player from SYZ Football Club of Ibadan, Arsenal is supposed to pay that money within 30 days of registration of that player with the new association or the date of which the first professional contract was signed. However, in reality, this does not often happen. That is why most clubs will now have to write to the dispute resolution chamber, an independent dispute resolution service provided by FIFA to resolve every form of dispute between parties, talking about the claims for training compensation. Now, clubs claiming an entitlement to training compensation only have 2 years from the date of the relevant player's registration. So, for example, now, you know, some of us now, after hearing this lecture now, maybe we'll not get to know some of these clubs and they will maybe a coach will now say, that boy that is playing in Napoli, I will see me. I trained him for so years, and maybe his transfer happened for more than 2 years ago. There is no way they can still lay claim to it. If it is more than 2 years, it's as sweet as what has gone. And that is it for training compensation. Because of time, let me just quickly give a bit about solidarity mechanism. Now, unlike compensation, solidarity payments do not cease to apply upon the conclusion of the season of the player's on 23rd birthday. So long the player is still active and anytime he's transfer and a transfer fee is paid, 5% of that transfer fee is shared among all clubs that were involved in training that player from 12 to 23 years. Let me come down again so that I will come very slow. For example, a professional player like Etebog and Ekaro that was mentioned, if he moves from, let me say, from Stoke City now, maybe Galatasaray finally pay a transfer fee of, let me say, 10 million dollar or 10 million euro, as the case may be. Every clubs that have been involved in his training from 12 to 23 years will be given 5% of that transfer fee, meaning Stoke City will only be paid 95% of 10 million euro. So that 5% will now be shared among all the clubs that are involved in his training. So with that now, there is compensation for the training that Etebo actually got from some of all these obscure clubs in Warri and Delta State where he played his youth football. Now, under FIFA RSCP, as I said, 5% of transfer compensation agreed with the selling club must be held back by the buying club. So you release only 95% and it's distributed to the former clubs involved in the training of that player. Now, former club, they shall receive the 5% depending on the duration that the player actually stayed with them. So, for example, the age also comes into being. So, for example, for the clubs that train the player between 12 to 15, they shall receive 0.25% of the total compensation. While for those that train the player between age 16 and 23, they shall receive 0.5% of the total compensation. Now, if a player was not with a former club for any entire season, the compensation will be what calculated pro rata depending on the duration of time the player spent in that particular club. Now, let's put this into perspective. For example, when Neymar moved to PSG for a record fee of 250 million euro, his former club Santos was reported to have received the equivalent of 9 million euro as part of their share of the solidarity contribution. Neymar had been previously registered with Santos for over 5 years, during which time he had been part of the youth squad as well as the first team. Now, further youth amateur clubs have also made the headlines of their receipt of solidarity contribution. Now, imagine now, Santos never expected they would earn 9 million euro after Neymar had left them long ago. But see how they now claim so much money from his transfer from Barca to PSG. Also, in 2015, Well-Said Boys Club received a cash bonus when they claimed their share of the 5% solidarity contribution from Frasafosa's transfer from Celtic to Southampton. We know that famous boy. So, in addition, the club also received a lot of cash injection when Jermaine Defoe, the old man, was transferred from Toronto to Southampton. So, this, so long a transfer fee is paid, a lot of money goes to some of the clubs that were involved in training this player. Now, under FIFA rules, the payment of solidarity contribution is also the responsibility of the buying club, and payment should also be made within 30 days, just like training compensation. You know, the buying club must sit on the sum until the claimant requests for it in writing or files for it through the FIFA dispute resolution chamber. So, in any case, the rules regarding solidarity mechanisms also apply to both permanent and temporary transfer. Now, conclusion, while transfer fee may continue to grow, amateur club must take opportunity to benefit from this significant revenue stream that is readily open to them. Solidarity contribution in particular has the ability to provide continuous significant funding to amateur players, amateur clubs, sorry, as it continues to trigger upon every transfer. So it's just like a gold mine. You just have to do well, get some exceptional player. Even though you don't get anything for transfer fee in future, there is also a gold mine waiting for you as a form of training compensation. So it trigger every time and does not cease at the end of the transfer of the player, especially solidarity mechanism. Even though the player is 40 years old, so long they pay transfer fees for that player, 5% of it must be shared by the clubs that were involved in training the player. Now, the solidarity mechanism is therefore a vital source of revenue that can assist in ensuring the sustainability of amateur clubs, many of which find it increasingly difficult to raise funds, especially in our country, Nigeria, to operate year in, year out. It is important, therefore, that amateur clubs ensure that they are familiar with the FIFA rules governing the training compensation. That's why I mentioned the RSTP at the beginning of my opening speech, and for us to also understand what payment they are entitled to and when they become due, and keep track of all the movement of their former players. So I think with that, I've come to the end of my presentation for today. Once again, I want to apologize for inability to bring forth my 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 script, but I will make sure Mike gets it out to us all. Thank you.
Bros,
Thank
you're
you very
welcome.
much, Eddie. So if anyone with question, you can just raise your hand. Few minutes. None? Charles?
Hello, Bros. I would like to thank Bros AD on his explanation and uh, insight information about what FIFA said about intermediary and players transfer and all that. And the only thing I want to beg is, Bros Mike, you should please try and make sure that all these informations get to us by email, so that at due time we can always get into it and understand it more properly. Thank
No
you.
problem. You'll get it. Let me quickly chip in something in the absence of no question. Okay, first season, Mr. Fajano, unmute yourself. You are on. Are you on? Okay. As an agent, an intermediary, you can also work as a debt recover. You can recover debt for players playing in the league, something like that. If you have a club that has been owed over 3 months' salary, then there is a way you can work it out and get the players a salary and being paid some certain percentage from the whole salary. Myself and Eddie, we have worked on so many of debt in Nigerian league, and I can beat my chest for you. You will get cool cash. Like Fajana, you say you like money. You can work in that area too. There are so many clubs in Nigeria that like to, their own responsibility is not to pay their player. They will sign the contract and terminate the contract. In such way, if you have it, you will make money, because unlawful termination of contract is against the FIFA regulation of players transfer. In that case, such club must pay for the whole contract if it's unlawful. But if it's a just cause by the club, then they have their way. They can have their way. But unlawful, you will get paid. Mr. Ibrahim, the General Secretary of Football Intermediaries Association of Nigeria, you want to chip in something?
Yeah, in addition to that, let me just say too, there have been an uprising of a default by clubs in in Nigerian league, and it's painful because our players have refused to learn. I want to say this too. Please, for especially for those aspiring intermediary, don't beg to represent any player, no matter what. Because if you beg to represent any player, you will not be able to be vocal or be stamp your authority. My experience have shown that the average Nigeria players believe that he can do everything on his own. He believes he's well learned and the rest. I had a case I'm currently handling. One of my player that was unlawfully contract was unlawfully terminated, and I wrote to LMC and they gave judgment, and somehow the player insisted he wants to go back to the club to see play with them. And yesterday they sent me a copy of a contract he signed. I was not asking if I thought he read the contract. He said yes. He said he saw that it is 2 years and they will pay him 300,000. So that is why he signed. And of further reading and reviewing of that contract, I saw that this club, they wrote there that they have the right to sack the young man after 1 month notice. You can imagine how desperate this young man. He just saw 2 years. He just saw a amount they would pay, and he signed. So the thing is that sometimes some of these players, out of their ignorance, they sign away their rights. You understand? So that's what I'm saying. Don't beg to represent any player because it won't give you the expected mileage. You are a professional, just like a lawyer. You are, in fact, we do a work, the same work with lawyers. Though some of us are even lawyers, but one thing you have to understand, you don't need to beg a client to, no matter how talented he is, you are selling value, you are selling service. You say, this is what I can offer, this is what I can do for you. So if you want to come in, take my representation contract and sign. Just like Michael said, that after this end, he will send you a sample of representation contract that you can be adopting for clubs, for players, for coaches. So you don't need to just, what now I want to advise us is that we shouldn't do freebies. This business, we are spending money. Most of us pays for this training. We are spending money to develop ourselves. So it shouldn't be like you are just doing it. It's not freebie. You must, in fact, in free time, just like the player that was speaking with Ian, there's no free me in free time. So you are not working for anyone to, at the end of the day, then you'll be looking at her. I've been an agent for years. I still have not earned anything. So please take this thing as business, and business, you must treat business as business. You need to make sure that any form of sympathy, I'm not saying it shouldn't be empathy or whatever, but whatever you want, and this is the XYZ money I want to earn, please let's take it, let's write it, let's sign. So that when money comes, it will not be another story. Thank you. Sorry for taking your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Chas, unmute
Yeah.
yourself.
Okay. I want to ask. Although last time we had a Zoom meeting, we kind of proceeded kind of hit on that. Well, that is institution where you have a player in one of the Nigerian clubs, and probably when he was going in, he signed as he's going there for a loan, not a full contract. And at the end of the day, after the season ended, and he never knew, like most of Nigerian clubs do, the player never knew that they had something there. In the training, they brought something like a document. You push, you sign that we are going to match so and so place. And players like this said, they signed, never knew that they're going to use that to kind of indict them or hold them down. Then after one season, and another club come for that particular player. He went for trials and everything was successful. He want to sign. Then I say you should go and bring your, which club did you play last? They say go and bring your release letter there, kind of. Only for the player to go there, and they are telling the player, no, he can't go. Yeah, you sign with us, you are still with us. They need to call us and negotiate with us. So I said, in that situation, what would one do?
Eddie. Eddie.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah,
I
I can
never knew
hear
I was
you.
speaking to myself. So, as I mentioned earlier, some of all these
Close the door.
guys are very desperate, and because of that desperation, they've actually messed up their career. I know of a particular player that was frustrated because of a desperation. I'm very sure most of us are aware of one Sunday Umba, one of our AFCON, will I call it one of the
2030.
AFCON hero, but later
Yeah.
on, it just, I'm very sure if I should ask some of us here, nobody knows the club he's playing for right now because of desperation, because he wants to make more money. You understand? The problem with some of the, in fact, some of the players in Nigeria league is that the most of them are not educated. We have to say the truth the way it is. Most of them are not educated, and most of them are not literate. What concerns them most? How much do you want to pay me? In fact, I can tell you some clubs they sign contracts for players. What do I mean? They will just write the player's name. The player will not even sign a contract, and that player is playing in a professional league. The player will tell you he has not signed any document with this club, hoping that tomorrow he can just carry his bag and he's no longer playing. Forgetting that some of all these administrators, what they do, they will put their name, put their passport, forge any signature there, and take it to LMC. And LMC do not have any secondary form of verification to confirm, okay, this player, is he the one that truly signed this document? It will be registered. Maybe that player now that have never signed any document will be registered for like 5 years contract, and he never knew he did that. So the problem is that is why we need to make ourselves relevant. When we make ourselves relevant, the players will say, okay, there is need for me to get an intermediary. Like the case I'm talking about now, this player, and I never expected that he would be given a chance to be given another contract again. But the way we won the case and everything went well, he's happy. Like one now is waiting for another bounty. I told him that that is your pension, because so long the club failed in meeting it, will win this case and you take that pension, you go home to go and set up a poultry farm in your village and start working because you can no longer play again. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that some of them, because of desperation, they do some of all these things. And like the example you gave, notice stop such player from reaching out to you. For example, if you are the intermediary, please let me speak with my boss first before I sign anything, or give me, let me study it. No club in Nigeria can force you to sign a document. I've related with all the, in fact, the mighties and the lows in Nigeria. I've interacted with the Mayans here and the rest. I've done business with them. No club. And especially if they know that you know what you are doing, they won't toy with you. They won't want to match your tail. Let me use that one. Like yesterday, there was an incident that happened. One of my boys currently in Wiki Tourist now. Wiki Tourist immediately called me that they need the players release letter and his TPO. And I asked, on what terms are you engaging this player? They have refused to talk to me since. Why can't we just do the right thing in Nigeria? Okay, I'm engaging this player for a 1 year loan. This is what we will pay this player. Now you are asking for the clearance. You register this player, then tomorrow we will not be quarreling that you did not do this. Why don't we just do the best or the right thing from the onset? The average Nigeria club do not want to do the right thing. They just believe they can get away with everything. So, for example, that your player, I would have appealed um to such a player, and I will just appeal to see how I can get the document he signed. If I'm the one in that position, I'm trying to give all this background so that you understand. I will appeal to maybe either LMC or NFL, wherever they submit the document. I want to first, before I start any quarrel, I first of all retrieve whatever it is submitted that is signed, because now he has gotten a better job. These people are now holding on that he's still contracted with them. Then we will now do that document. Oga, did you sign this document? Yes, this is what he said. He said, but this is not what we agree. But this is not the situation. You will not engage these people. But I tell you, our club owner, most of them are liars. They will tell you that the player was aware that he's signing 4 years before he signed that document. So it will not be like a word against their own. And if you ask some of all these players, whatever they are even signing, if you ask them for their own copy, they don't even have it. Like that piece of paper. Now, do you know some of them even sign a plain paper without nothing written on it? I'm telling you, plain paper without
That's it.
nothing. They can just the secretary can just design anything, sign on the document, and the signature is there. Meaning you can just decide, say, okay, whatever you are signing now, whatever entitlement that you are supposed to get in this club, you are leaving it for the club. It's printed. It's your signature. You can't deny it. But education is very key. That is why I told you that one of the way we can also make money in this business is engaging. Personally, I like dealing with clubs that have a lot of players. And it's like the head, the body will follow. If I deal with the head, the body will follow. But I should tell you, we still have some very funny club owners. And you are dealing with them, they are dealing with Mr. B, they are dealing with Mr. C. So there will be some complication maybe by the time you bring something. So we still need to be very careful because we have a lot of fraudulent people amongst us. I know we talk about the respect these guys have for the white collar, but in as much as that, because most of the time, some of us within, we have to be honest, especially in the football circle, just want to make quick cash, forgetting that even though it's a 100 naira that come, if we spread it around, there's possibility that 200 naira will come tomorrow. But if you hold on to that 100 naira, 200 naira will not come back if you don't spread it for the people that are involved. So it's all about education. Then in that situation, it's all about appeal to the regulatory body to retrieve the document. It's when you study the document, then you can now know the next step you can take. But in most cases, most Nigeria club will frustrate such a player to make sure he does not make that deal that he's supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Another one question again, please. Bros, I am throwing this question to Bros and Bros Mike. How is it possible that a club that has not signed their player will go to the extent of paying off the former club to collect the
release letter?
Release letter, yeah. How is it possible? Is that possible?
It's not possible. How
Because
are you going
now,
to pay for the former club for the player you don't need? If you need the player, you will take responsibility that you want to sign him. Then you request for his release letter. If it's a free player, fine. If you are going to pay something, then the club, the club that owns the player will give you their charges that you are going to pay so amount of naira or dollars. Then if you agree, you pay.
Okay.
If you don't need the player, you don't need to pay.
Okay, I have a case study. Here, I want to throw to you,
Okay.
Sas. I have a player in at the moment, Tornadoes. Last season, he was with Oshun. I think I made mention of this particular issue last time we discussed. So
Okay.
he went for screening, and they like what he has, and they called me. We talked for some time. I now told him that he should not sign anything since the season has not started. But they are still screening. They are negotiating. They are still screening. So they keep asking him that he should go and get his release letter from Oshun.
United.
Yeah, he went to Oshun. Anybody that has done business with Oshun United, and I don't want to castigate or condemn any club, but they are very funny sometimes because of the way they are running their things. So the Oshun said no, he's still their player. At the time, Toronto's management now say that they have paid off Oshun to collect the release letter. Yeah, I now asked the coach and the management, how can you pay to collect his clearance without agreeing
Definitely,
the player
an
the amount
agreement.
you're going to pay him? So what are the sign-offs? What are the salary? How many years? What? Yeah. What are the agreement? And this guy has not signed anything. So they now ask the guy that the part of the money that they want to give him 100,000 to who, because the money they pay to show that what remaining that they want to give. And I ask the guy that don't collect dime from them, because tomorrow it will be a kind of
Charles.
Bros.
For Niger Tornadoes to do that, there is an agreement between Tornadoes and the player. If there is no agreement between Tornadoes and the player, they can't go behind you to process his clearance from Osun United.
Okay.
Do you get that? So you need to talk to the player. if he still wants you to be his agent or intermediary. But if not,
Okay.
you can leave him. There is definitely an
Okay.
agreement between him and Tornadoes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No
All
problem.
right,
Thank you.
let me add to it because I have a recent case that I just handled on this,
Okay.
but in fact, just exactly as it is. A friend of mine who is an agent contacted me that one of his player was in Joy Comet FC in Lagos, and they've been owing the boy for over several months. I think December last year was when they paid him salary last. So I now wrote to the club and asking for the release later of the player. Joy Comet told me that they know they are owing the player, that currently the player, another club, 3SC, is requesting for the service of the player, and that the player know that they are discussing with 3SC and is coming to request for his clearance. That the reason why they've not paid their salary, that what did they even say? That NFF have not given them palliative, FIFA palliative, very unserious. Serious set of people. So I actually wrote to NFF requesting for the boys clearance. And NFF wrote immediately to the club demanding for the clearance that they should release to the boy because the club have acknowledged that they are owing the player, which is a breach of the contract. So that is what you will see in the RSTP. When you owe a player for more than 30 days, that player can walk away freely. And just that most time in Nigeria, most people don't activate it. I've used it a lot and I've walked away from a lot of clubs that were contracted to, and I also make sure that I get compensation for the remainder of the contract. So now, this scenario I'm telling you now, NFF now wrote to Joy Comment. Joy Comment now said they've already issued the letter to 3SC. That 3SC have contacted them, they've already sorted that matter. So I now reach out to my person that contracted me for the job, and I say, this is the situation of things. He spoke with the 3SC guys. He said 3SC, the boy said he should discuss with his former club. The same boy
Imagine.
that in all indices is a free player because he has been owed salary since December. So you can see that sometimes some of all these players are so desperate to play that they are not even loyal to us. Let me use that word. They are
You're
not
right.
loyal to us. In that instance, you will be the one losing. So what we need to get the trust. A player you are managing must trust you. You must deal with him in a way that 100% the player trusts you. If you are like a close confidant, he doesn't seek counsel any other place. You should be the all in all. When I mean all in all, you are like a father, a brother, anything at all. So long to his girlfriend and it's a favorite food, you should know it. You understand? When you have a player that is loyal to you and you know everything concerning such player, the possibility of betrayal is slim. But I'm not telling you that it's not possible. We are humans, and at a time, some things can just come up and we decide to change. We are humans, so a lot of things happens. But I'll tell you that if you are managing a player, it shouldn't just end with management and commission alone. It's not you spending your money on that player, but you should be part of the life of that player so that by tomorrow it will stand for you. Because one thing I've observed is that the players they always go to they also because of the level of education they are easily moved by words. Maybe this club owner will go and tell him now, you don't want to play league. This person you are depending on. Let's see where we do you now. We'll make sure you don't play any league. That player, because of desperation to play, he wouldn't want to lose that chance. He will just sign. He will just do what the other club, even though the thing is not right. And tomorrow, when he's in problem, he will now run back to you. So that is the challenge you are having. Most footballers, they are not even loyal to the agents that are representing them. So in the case I had now, the guy was really disappointed. He said, now imagine, I'm sure, Eddie, I'm sure that this same player will come to me tomorrow that there's problem, they are owing him, they're owing this. I said, then you will tell him that when I'm supposed to do the right thing from the beginning, you did not allow me to do the right thing. So you go and carry your cross yourself. So that's just one of the basic things. So we need to also make sure that we get the loyalty of our clients. Even though if it's a club or a player, we need to get their loyalty so that 100% if they say yes or if we abide them say yes, they will stand by that yes and nothing will sway them from that position.
Thank you, Eddie. Anyway, I want to appreciate everyone has been part of today's section. Hope to see you guys tomorrow. But let me introduce Mr. Ibrahim Abdulaziz to you. He's the General Secretary of the Football Agents Association in Nigeria. So if you are a new agent, there is an association of that agent, of the agent in Nigeria. So, and it's free, you can join. You can join, you can choose to join, and you can choose otherwise too, but it's better for you to join so that you can have a area of connections. So we are
Mr. Mike, please, how can we join?
Okay, for you to join, you can write me. You can private chat me,
Okay.
so I will give you instruction on how to join.
Oh, that's
Ibrahim,
good.
you
That's
can
good.
just say hi to them.
Mr. Ibrahim, we can't see your voice, so.
Hello.
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah. So good to be part of this meeting. Is really thought-provoking and well educated. So I'm so very happy to be. I was even surprised that most of all of us here are not part of the association. But being part of the association is very good to actually post our activities and the relationship, because the job we are doing in community is things of network. It's only when we work together that we achieve a lot. Thank you so much.
The president of our association is here today. So he was just accusing some of us that have not joined the association.
I'm not accusing you. I'm not accusing you. So I'm only trying to let you know how important it is for us to be together.
Sorry, I never knew that I didn't mute my. Yeah, I was talking to my wife. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
I never knew I didn't mute it. I'm so sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. So we want more of you guys in, because what we need is things like this. It's just like we're running a law firm, just like what Mr. Eddie said, and we have to keep learning every day. Because when we work together as a team, that is when we make less mistakes, and we make more by putting so many deals. And the white guys that we have, all those ones too, they cannot break you when they know you have a force. It's only when you know you don't have the force that when you do deal with them, they will just ask on with the money. But thank God the association is also part of FIFA, and FIFA carry out all over all the European football agents. So if we have any problem with any agent outside Nigeria, maybe in Europe, America, when you complain to the general body again and we report what is happening, they are going to call the agent into order, except if you are dealing with a whack agent. But what we try to do in FIAN is to ensure that you are dealing with the right agent, even if you are collaborating with anybody outside the country. So when you let us know, we're going to inform the general body. They're going to screen and tell us who the person is. If it's a real intermediary, fine. So it's been a good one, and I'm telling you, it's a very good platform. And our job here is just like humanitarian job, but you make money while you make people smile. You may not come fast.
That's what I just want to hear. That is what I want to hear. Is the monetary part. Yeah.
Yeah. Come slowly. God will help us. So we'll be waiting to hear from you. Join the FIAN platform as time goes on.
I will. I will contact Mr. Mike towards that, and he will let me know, and I will join immediately.
Thank you.
All right.
Don't mind me. I'm a Yoruba man with Igbo mentality.
Oh,
More confused.
No, hold on there.
Sorry.
Not talk about.
Sorry. Kedu, sorry.
I don't know. Yoruba only try to pretend, but I think they love money more than the Igbos.
They love money. Over this discussion, money dimension.
Forget, I marry Igbo myself.
Anyway, thank you, everyone. Tomorrow is another day. Let's meet again.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mike.
You are welcome.
Thank
Let's
you.
appreciate each other by just clapping. Appreciate each other. Clap wherever you are. From Canada, there is Gbenga from Abuja, Eddie from Wari, Ibrahim Suarao from Canada, Joshua from Abuja. Only football. Olorode from Abuja. Ibrahim is from Abuja too. Charles Obieke. I don't know. Okay, it's from Imo. Emmanuel Henry.
Yes.
Lagos, Lagos.
From Lagos. From Lagos. Easy. Anyway, thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Cheers. Yeah, bye.